you must be sound in the kicking game. Legendary words from the great Pat Dye that were not followed on Saturday and perhaps changed the direction for a couple of teams, and also some squads pushed over the brink, and here we are mid-September, and coaches are already getting handed pink slips. This is the College Game Day podcast. We are recording on Monday, September 15th. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel. We strive to go ahead and turn the page, spin forward, look ahead from the games on Saturday and what's coming up over the weekend. We're going to talk plenty about what happened in South Bend, absolute thriller. In Knoxville, heartbreaking for Tennessee, and what resilience and toughness from Georgia and what it might mean. I'll dive into the fact that there aren't enough spots, or maybe too many spots, in filling out my AP Top 25 poll. But, Pete, let's start right in your fastball middle in wheelhouse. Coaching changes. And already we had some. Were these – I think everyone knew that Brent Pry at Virginia Tech, Deshaun Foster at UCLA were in tenuous spots. But it didn't feel like going into Saturday or going into the weekend in UCLA's case that this was a make or break. Better win this one or you're not going to make it until the following Monday. Was this a result of the extraordinarily poor performances from both teams over the weekend?
Yeah, great point, Rece. I feel like the tenor of those losses and the visceral reaction to them led to these firings. On paper, when I started to get rumblings of it on Saturday night that these could be happening, I was surprised because we're only 3 games in, and now that would never stop anybody. But every player on those 2 rosters can jump in the portal and redshirt and then preserve their year of eligibility. And I just thought from a preservation standpoint, I mean, that was something that was, that was going to loom large over the carousel this week. Remember, we didn't have our first in-season firings last year until after week 8, October 20th, and that was ECU and Southern Miss. And no power conference coach was let go until Mac Brown, which was late November. Remember, it was during the Maui Classic. I think Bubba called Mac from Maui to dismiss him. So the timeline paradigm is radically different, and I think some of the protect the roster notion was part of that. What I learned making calls on Saturday night was that in this new rev share era, the way payments are structured, if you didn't massively front load, which some people did, if you didn't massively front load, the hook to keep the good players on the roster are checks. Like they are going to get checks sporadically throughout, game checks, right? They're going to get paid to play football because they're professional football players. So eligibility used to be the big leverage point, and now money is the big leverage point. So look, I'm not going to tell you that some or many players from both of those programs won't go in the portal, but it becomes a risk reward. So you make $250,000, you've already got 125. You're a premium position. Do you eat the 125, sit the year, go work? Like these are the conversations that are going to be happening now that we just quite frankly haven't had that often in college football until the last 4 or 5 years. But I do think 2 programs that are in radically different places maybe than they were a generation ago or so. Dan, would you agree with that? Like these are two interesting jobs at the intersection of where we are in college athletics.
Yeah, particularly Virginia Tech. I know UCLA, their history is, they weren't playing for championship games and stuff like that in recent. It's been a long time. They had a couple of years under Mora, but at best they've been an okay, good team, but a lot of mediocre years. I do like that these moves got made, and it wasn't too often college administrators have done things like let's wait to the 5th game and then all our guys are stuck, and then we make a firing. So that kind of move that doesn't really get spoken about when they talk about loyalty when players leave. So I appreciate that. Look, in fairness to both of these rosters, you need to make this move. These teams were going nowhere. I can only imagine the dysfunction that was going on inside the team, inside the locker room, inside the meetings, to yield the results where Old Dominion's winning, and New Mexico's winning games fairly handily. So if we're gonna make this move, let's do it and not worry about whether we lose a player or two. Where these 2 go and how do they fit in this era? Both have had moments, but both also have a lot of challenges just institutionally of trying to be a good football program, but neither should ever be this bad.
Think about the turn, how quickly this turned. Not that everyone in Blacksburg was thrilled with Brent Pry, but I think I'm working off memory here. But I think they had a 20-10 lead on Vanderbilt at halftime. Vanderbilt's good. I think South Carolina, and Frank Beamer's son Shane can attest to that. They had a 10-point lead on Vanderbilt. At halftime. Well, I'm good. I'll come back to that in a second. Well, I'll go ahead and say it since I brought it up. I would be shocked if he left South Carolina for Virginia Tech, absent just the pull of some of the heartstrings, because I believe Shane thinks he has a destination type job at South Carolina. I know everyone doesn't look at South Carolina that way. I think he does. I think he believes they can be a perennial contender there, something they haven't done before. But back to the Virginia Tech point, they have a 10-point lead on a really good team, and they absolutely melted down in the second half. Vanderbilt outscored them 34-0 in the second half of that game. And then Old Dominion, I even got a text from a buddy of mine who said, why didn't you pick Old Dominion, just Superdog, like immediately after the show? People were like sensing that this was coming to Virginia Tech, and then they get drilled. Now, they've lost to Old Dominion before. They've lost a couple of those games like that in the last under Justin Fuente. But to get drilled,
Pry, I think, like started his career with a loss to Old Dominion on a Thursday or Friday night. Is it not natural for you, Rece, to say Old Dominion? Is that unfamiliar to your vocal cords?
It is not unfamiliar to me, Pete. Old Dominion is the nation's #1 LTL freight carrier. Old Dominion, the best in the game, helping the world keep promises. Me and those mascots, we get in that warehouse in the offseason and we move some freight. We move freight, and it turns out
moved some freight on Saturday.
yeah, they did. They moved some freight right out of Blacksburg. So look, here's the fun part. Now, I mentioned Shane Beamer in passing, and I wasn't. Well, I mean, I thought of it, but I wasn't trying to make the point. I'll be surprised if he's the next head coach at Virginia Tech. Maybe you have intel that would suggest otherwise. Absent that, where do these two programs start to look in terms of finding the next coach?
Let's start with UCLA, because that's where my actually let's start with Virginia Tech. We've been talking about Virginia Tech. I think the most important thing for Virginia Tech is, and this does apply to UCLA as well, is what is this job? All right, and by say that meaning who's in charge. Whit Babcock has made both the Fuente hire and the Brent Pry hire. ADs rarely, not never, but rarely get to make 3 head coaching hires. So A, who's in charge? And then B, what does the financial reality look like? It didn't get a ton of attention, but back in August, Whit Babcock, the AD at Virginia Tech, basically proposed an $80 million addition to Tech's budget. He basically said it's a new arms race, and we're falling behind. Their budget right now for the athletic department is $122 million. They want it to be $200 million. And basically, from talking to people there this summer, getting some of my hot list stuff ready, they're like, we want to be Clemson, so we're going to have Clemson's budget, and then we're going to let everything else fall into place. So that, we should know the particulars of that, and when the codification of that, they're basically going to take school money. Athletics is Virginia Tech as a university saw what big time football could do for them in a way that few have, right? And I think they want that again. They need that again. They think for the overall health of the university. So they're willing to, invest, let's say $80 million a year over 10 years. Addition is like an extra $1 billion. I mean, that's like crazy amount of money. And so they feel like they need to spend like the schools they want to be. And I think the unspoken message is we want to end up on the right side of the river when this happens. So this is just a massive hire for Virginia Tech, because they right now are on the outskirts of those conversations when you talk about the next wave of SEC/Big Ten expansion. So I think that's I just think institutionally this is a pivot point for Virginia Tech that's fairly critical. So I think how good your pool is is directly tied to that. So, can they just go to John Summerall and say, all right, John, here's $11 million a year, and you're going to have the second best budget in the ACC. And you have the staff, the analysts, the whole thing. You're going to get, I feel like Summerall's the best group of 5 candidate at this point. You could pick and choose and look different ways, but I think he's in that conversation. So do you do it that way, or do you, that's really like what you need to do is both these places are unattractive right now, and they have the next 2 months to, spit shine and sell, honestly, where they go and where they become.
Dan, you know this as well as anyone. Is UCLA fixable in its current state? Or, playing at the Rose Bowl, there's probably not land to do anything else. Just the way it's situated. Is this fixable for them to be, a contender in the Big Ten, to be at least in the upper echelon of that conference?
So you never want to put possibilities in UCLA off the table, because I think everybody who's ever stepped on that campus says, oh my goodness, look at this place. It's Los Angeles. It's Westwood. It's fantastic. Elite school in the country, everything going for it, except how much does football matter? They have a deal with the Rose Bowl through 2044, I think. They do not have the space on campus to build. It would take an enormous effort to gerryman some space on campus to even build. What does a stadium in LA cost? It's costing $800 million at Northwestern. And then you say, well, what, you could go to SoFi, well, you're in this other deal, and a lot of your old money is in Pasadena. They like it at the Rose Bowl. Those would be the guys you need to spend. Financially, they're in a world of trouble. The school does not need the commitment necessarily of their football program. Going to the Big Ten makes everything harder. That said, there's 2 Division I schools in the most populous region in the whole country. And you can convince kids that you want to stay home and play football. It's either us or USC. And there's a lot of things there that can work. But I think to Pete's point, Virginia Tech is sitting there going, as a university, we need to get top-notch students. We need to create a great environment, right? And football is part of that. We're in a state with the University of Virginia and William and Mary. There's a lot of competition for great students. What sets us apart? It's a great academic school. I think it's a top 50 school in the country. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. But football would really help. Clemson has stolen their program. They used to be Clemson, and they were the team up in the mountains somewhere in the ACC. They were really good, and everyone got all hyped up, and now Clemson's that team. Well, maybe not anymore. We'll get to them, I'm sure. But they lost that, and they haven't been good. I think Fuentes had 1 10-win season. They haven't been good in 15 years. Neither has UCLA. I think if UCLA football, you look through it, there was a couple 10-win seasons under Mora, 2013 and 2014. There was a couple 10-win seasons under Bob Toledo, 1997 and 1998. There was a couple in the 80s under Terry Donahue. That's it. UCLA is never really that good, but they shouldn't be bad. But it's not imperative of UCLA, I think, to have competitively as an institution a football program that's in the top 25 the way it might be for Virginia Tech. UCLA is going to be one of the best and biggest and most coveted places to go to school in this country because of everything else it has. I don't think it has that institutional will that maybe a Virginia Tech does. Now, they do have Big Ten membership. They're paying calimony, but they don't have the dough. They don't have But Virginia Tech, if they want to do what Pete's saying, at least they're being honest and saying, we got to spend. We got to spend it. Yeah. We got to spend right now.
Great discipline to wait like this long to use calimony, Dan, because I know that was the entirety of your notes.
Really, I was excited all morning. When do I get calimony? They gave $10 million to Cal, and Cal's out there beating Big Ten teams. Can UCLA beat a Big Ten team? We don't know. We don't know.
Well, that was sort of the crux of my point. Is there is a malaise over UCLA right now, and turning that battleship is extraordinarily difficult. Heck, I think SC's having some problems with it, and they're USC right now. Now, if they keep winning and ultimately beat Notre Dame, become a contender in the in the Big Ten, then obviously we're going to start seeing that. But and I'm sure there's some energy around it right now. But with their losing the last couple of years, it's sort of settled in there too. It seems.
This doesn't make sense to put the two LA schools in the Big Ten. Doesn't make sense. They had it going. Yeah. It's easier to play. It doesn't make sense to have to travel and deal with these other programs. It doesn't. It only made dollars and cents, but they're doing it and trying to be competitive. It's a hard go. It's a lot easier the way they had it.
Well, the shame of what UCLA did to Deshaun Foster here was they went and they took the bag, if you will, right? They took the Big Ten money, and then they said, we're going to operate like a Mountain West school, basically. Their head coach is making less than multiple coordinators in the Big Ten, or the same amount as multiple coordinators in the Big Ten. Jim Knowles is, I think, averaging $3.1 million on his defensive coordinator contract at Penn State. Deshaun Foster is making $3 million a year, right? So you can't say, hey, we're going to go take this, we're going to go eat from this trough of money, but we're not going to spend it. And now financially, UCLA has been sideways for a good amount of time. And what they're going to have to do, the one thing I know at UCLA is they want a proven head coach, right? We hire opposites. So you get a coach who comes in with no experience. Obviously, a lot of people brought up the media day speech, I guess you call it, the media day podium moment that Foster had that kind of set the trajectory of his tenure front facing. But look, they lost because they just simply did not invest. Administratively, way above the athletic department, they said, we don't want to pay a $10 million buyout and pay a head coach $8 million a year. Well, they got what they paid for. They got smoked by New Mexico and were the butt of jokes. Dan alluded to earlier, Chip Kelly always used to say, UCLA is the most applied to school in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Like there are challenges at UCLA. The stadium's a challenge. There's economic challenges, tradition challenges, right? But like, ultimately, you should be able to figure it out. Now, I've been told that UCLA is going to now pony up and big boy invest. Like they've realized the error of their ways, and the disconnect from the last administration to the current one is they have Julio Frank as their chancellor. He was the same guy that spent a boatload of money to get Mario Cristobal out of Oregon in there, and they invested. They were ahead in NIL. Remember early NIL? Miami was throwing money around like crazy. They pushed and pushed and pushed. So I've been told Frank is all in and wants to have the same revitalization that, quite frankly, helped him get that job from Miami to UCLA. He wants the same revitalization at UCLA. Now, there's a lot more red tape at UCLA, and there's a lot less history, right? It's just a much... Even Miami has generally stunk for 25 years until Cristobal, but they're still making 30 for 30s about it. Like the brand resonated. Like you go on walk on the street in New York and people are wearing you stuff. Like, UCLA does not have that tradition. They got Troy Aikman and, but like for the most part, it's been tepid. Who would have thought Jim Mora would be the glory days, and they fired him. So what UCLA has to put forth behind the scenes in the next 2 months is a convincing, clear, succinct financial plan of how this is going to be exponentially different this time. And Frank is the front porch of that pitch.
I feel badly for Deshaun Foster the moment that he had at Big Ten Media Days. He's an engaging guy when you get him in smaller groups or one-on-one. He had a bad moment in front of a crowd, and he actually really went to work behind the scenes to just improve that nature of his game. He brought in some experts, a guy that I'm very familiar with, to kind of, help him make sure that he was crafting his message and letting that personality get out. And it just didn't work out. I always feel terrible for coaches when it doesn't work at their school, because when it doesn't work there, it seems like for most people, there are certainly some exceptions that make you scratch your head from time to time. The guy's still hanging around, but it always seems like there's that cloud over it, that it somehow sullies what happened, when you either played there or maybe when you had your good coaching years there. But so anyway, I wish him well. I think Deshaun's a good guy, probably thrown in the deep end of the pool and not given a lot of help at that tenure in his career in terms of resources, because you got to get players, man. I mean, all of these guys, Deshaun Foster, everybody else involved, Brent Pry, you think they don't know ball? Of course they do. Yeah, they know plenty of ball. it's sometimes it's all of the other stuff that surrounds a guy in a certain place that leads to his success. And if it starts going sideways, I mean, man, you have to be good to turn it around. Really, really good. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast before. Not that it ever got like this, but there have been a couple of times in Kirk Ferentz's tenure at Iowa where they seemingly had lost all momentum. And I'm not making a joke about the offense here, but they had lost all forward momentum, and he got that thing turned back. You have to be extraordinarily high level, and sometimes not only high level, you have to have some wrinkles around your eyes, some crow's feet. You have to have some experience in there. And I'm sorry for both those guys. I hope they land on their feet and do well. Real quick before we move on, you got names. You mentioned Sumrall. I'm sure he'll be a target for Virginia Tech. You have names yet?
I got UCLA names here. So let me make one quick point on Foster. He did work on himself. He did one unimaginably dumb thing that UCLA needs to fix. They basically shut down access to practice and players, and even like human interest stories of like the players. That might be the dumbest thing you could do in Los Angeles market that I've seen a college football program do in 20 years. I mean, Pete Carroll opened the floodgates, let people in. Like you are barely relevant. Like you are barely fogging a mirror in LA. And if you're going to shut the media out, that was just, and I don't know if that was Foster, if that was the sports information department, if that was administration, but my gosh, do you look stupid in week 3 after getting smoked by New Mexico that you wouldn't let people come and write a nice story about your center? Like that needs to get fixed. I just think that is just the epitome of, I don't even know, just foolish.
And there's 2 NFL teams now.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll didn't have 2 NFL teams to deal with. Mark.
Well, Hyde. Yeah. And maybe they knew they were going to be that bad and it was strategic.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I thought Foster would do all right, but
yeah.
that was no.
So what I know about UCLA is they're going to hire an opposite, and they're going to hire a proven coach. Now, obviously, they're going to have to financially do that. The name that came up last time in the search that went some distance, but it again they didn't have the finances to do it, was PJ Fleck, who is an intriguing energy bolt because he would go and he would make them relevant, right? He would just by force of nature and the way he goes. Jed Fish's name will come up. He was the interim coach there when Mora got fired. He has ties to Casey Wasserman, who's the top booster there. And then look, guys like Dan Mullen, like guys who've done it. It'll be an interesting litmus of the division now we have between the Power 2 and everybody else. How many Big 12 coaches, like does Dave Aranda have interest of going home because he sees the gap yawning and sees that place would be a pretty good cultural fit for Dave Aranda. Like and he has done it fairly well, but like he's not crushing it. So like it might just be like a slide back west, go home type move. So I think those are the prototypes. Mullen obviously just beat him, so that and he's a proven winner. So I think they're going to go for like that thing. That's not like some definitive reported out list, but I think that's the model of guys that they're going to look at there.
You guys think winning the press conference? Ultimately it's unimportant. I would think in LA, given the brevity of the sports news cycle with all of the professional teams and USC there, I would say that winning the press conference would be even less important than it should be. Because the first thing I thought of, I think Dave Aranda is a really good coach, and I immediately thought that's not going to generate a lot of buzz in Los Angeles if they hire him. Dan Mullen might. PJ Fleck certainly would, because PJ, just the force of his personality is going to change it. Dan, you think it never should be important, but a lot of places it is? I would think it would be even less important in LA, because it's not going to last long, no matter what you do. In terms, if they don't like it, it won't last forever.
I don't think it matters. I think it matters if you're being introduced to some region that you didn't know, and the high school coaches don't know you, and that's all they see, and then they don't really return. I just don't see that as a. Yeah. I thought if Deshaun Foster had time to recruit, he brought a totally different. It was a total switch from Chip Kelly as your head coach to Deshaun Foster. And I thought I really thought the program had a chance. They beat Iowa last year, they beat Nebraska. Like they won 5 games, but they had some good victories late. They bring in, Iamaleava is a local player. I thought, hey, maybe they can get something going with LA. Foster's an LA guy. If you can get that going, I don't think the press conference matters.
Nor do I. I'm just saying that if you're looking for a bolt of energy, in your program,
might help
my point. It shouldn't matter at all.
Now.
You got to hire the right guy.
Are they going to invite media to the press conference, Rece? Or are they not going to be allowed?
I don't know.
That would be
more. Just an Instagram video.
On Saturday, one of our producers, DJ, big Georgia fan, and he's watching the late field goal attempt by Tennessee. And before we started recording this, he said, I knew he was going to miss it. I was hoping he was going to miss it. There were a lot of shots of the Tennessee kicker, and it paled in comparison to the number of shots of poor Tyler Buckner, who is, well-traveled by all accounts from people that I know at Notre Dame. Wonderful young guy, was starting quarterback at times for Notre Dame, went to Alabama, didn't win the job, started one game, came back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse, decided to play football, had been a receiver, and now I guess he's sort of the third quarterback, and he was holding. Reliable guy, good guy on special teams, good hands. He just didn't get the hold down. It happens. And, and then they didn't convert the extra point, and they lose on the fourth down play. The parallels between those two unbelievable games on Saturday were massive, big time, lower intestinal fortitude, fourth down plays. The one from Gunnar Stockton, the touchdown and 2-point conversion that tied it to London Humphreys, and then the winning touchdown pass in South Bend from Marcel Reed. I mean, two huge fourth down plays, two special teams gaffes, and you set the course going forward for all four of these programs. One, Notre Dame is in a mess. They've lost two games against two really good teams, two top 10 level teams, basically on the last play of the game. And now they're up against it. Tennessee's fine, but now I think we look at Georgia in a little bit of a different light, because they came through on offense. Gunnar Stockton got the ball down the field. And their defense, even though they got cut up from time to time, and some around that program were bemoaning yesterday some issues in the secondary, big time for Georgia. They're going to be fine. A&M hadn't done what they just did, beat a top 10 team like that in over a decade. They're now making a statement. And as I said, I actually came out of the Tennessee game more convinced than I was going into it that they're good. They're really good. So everybody's good, but now Notre Dame's desperate. But the parallels between the kicking game gaps and the fourth down plays and the impact that might have resonating for the rest of the season was really remarkable, and just two thrilling games on Saturday that will have some repercussions the rest of the way in some respect.
Let me start with Tyler Buckner real quick, because this guy's amazing. His college athletic career, I felt so bad for him Saturday night. He once verbally committed to play lacrosse at Michigan. He then backs out of that and goes to Notre Dame to play football. Okay, think about these brands now. He ends up being a starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Was he a great one? No. But he started a football game at Notre Dame as quarterback. Then he transfers to Alabama and starts as a quarterback at Alabama. He started quarterback at Notre Dame and Alabama. He then transfers back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse, wins the national championship, then becomes a receiver at Notre Dame, again, back on the football team. Now, if you meet this guy like 20 years later at a cocktail party and he explains that, you're like, who are you? And he goes, I was the guy that dropped the kick against Texas. Oh, yeah, I remember. Wow, yeah. You look familiar.
It's a great point.
Lord, what an athlete this guy is. I mean, I know he's not going to win in the Heisman, whatever, but what is that resume? Felt terrible. Notre Dame needs a defense. Stop showing Tyler Buckner. The defense is the problem at Notre Dame. It's absolutely falling apart. But, hey, if you think DJ thought Tennessee was going to miss the kick, I bet you half of A&M thought they were going to miss that final extra point to win the game. A&M, this is a game A&M blows every single time. They didn't blow it this year. They waited for the other team to blow it. Come from behind victory at Notre Dame. Just a huge victory for the Aggies. Marcel Reed is a credible player, competitor. That shot he took to the shoulder and came back in. This was a night to me about A&M putting a little something behind them. We're not blowing these games. We're going to win them. And I don't know if they're not the team to beat in the SEC, which is wide open. I was really impressed with A&M in that game.
Do you believe in A&M going forward, Pete? Was this a great win, or was it a sign of things to come that A&M is? In fact, I had the same thought as Dan. I wondered. For instance, in my poll, I still have LSU number 1. Their defense is tremendous. I'm not convinced. I have 3 or 4 teams that I could have easily put at the top of the rankings. Georgia has the same issues that we wondered about. They played well against Tennessee. I think Tennessee looked good. Texas, for whatever reason, they are sputtering on offense. It can't get things going there. Now, all of a sudden, look, A&M gave up a bunch of points too, to be clear about it. But, I mean, you can make a case for A&M and Oklahoma, I think, at least in the early going, the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah. Well, I bring up this point only to mock the prediction industry, which has never been less reliable or more irrelevant than right now. So I predicted in preseason that Notre Dame would not make the playoff, and I had A&M in the playoff. And if it didn't come down to some like superhero career guy having to drop an extra point, I could be completely wrong, right? Like, it's so thin and so fragile, and it's what makes the sport so great. So I'm not doing that to like go to the chiropractor to pat myself on the back, but I'm just saying, like, we all sit around for 7 months. Yeah, we all sit around for fair. I could use an adjustment. We all sit around for 7 months and try to figure out this matrix. And it comes down to like mind-boggling things like a lacrosse national champion, dropping extra point. I do feel terrible for him, by the way, just generally. So I do believe in A&M. Like, I believe in, the route where I believe in teams is obviously starts with quarterback play and then goes right to lines, right? In A&M, there was a little question on the quarterback play. I think that's been answered. Maybe louder and quicker than I would have expected. Credit to Marcel Reed. Credit to Colin Klein. He has grown and evolved in a fantastic way. And then they have the wackiest schedule, just in how it lays out the next 6 games of anyone in the country. They have 3 home games and 3 road games. You ever heard of that?
I mean, usually you have those stretches where you go back and forth. You're running back. Scheduling is one of those things. Went to Syracuse, didn't take a lot of math classes, so I try to stay in my lane. But that's they're hard to put together. So this isn't a criticism. It's just bizarre. So the 3 home games are first: Auburn, Mississippi State, and Florida. They'll be favored in all of them. That at LSU game on October 25th is looking pretty spicy right now. But they're going to go to Arkansas before, and Taylor Green can beat anybody by himself. Then they go to Missouri, who has proven to be a very good team, and Bo Pribula is as dynamic and dangerous as any quarterback in the country. So, like, that stretch will be interesting, but don't be surprised if A&M wins the 3 games in which they're favored. Auburn will be the toughest, but obviously Florida's too talented to just like ring up a win against them, and Mississippi State has proven to have some mettle, but if they can navigate that stretch, they'll probably be the number 1 team in the country. Right? Or if they can, they should be. Until proven otherwise, I will have to assume, Dan, that even though Florida will show up and play hard, we know that'll happen. Until proven otherwise, I will assume the Gators will do whatever it takes to help Texas A&M win that game if they need to.
I mean, 5 interceptions, that's certainly a help. That's certainly a help. Talk about your preseason predictions, Pete. How about on the quarterbacks? I mean, it's all going in. It's all Arch Manning. It's all Cade Klubnik. It's all DJ Lagway. How about Marcel Reed? How about Diego Pavia? How about Haynes King? How about Gunnar Stock, Joey Aguilar, even the loss? Yeah. I mean, you got guys that they're great, maybe, and I don't want to take away the pro potential of some of these guys, but great college quarterbacks. And then we see all these guys that are supposed to be the pro. I mean, if the college sports media is bad at predicting, and I am, your draft nicks are not doing too well here 3 weeks into the season either. I mean, they're having a worse time because all they got to do is look at a player. It is totally different. I want these guys that are winners, that can run, that are tough, that can handle adversity and all this different stuff. And all the QBs that everyone was all hyped up about, it ain't happening. Yeah,
that's very, very fair, Dan.
It's the great college quarterback, you get caught up in it. Look, I'm surprised that Arch Manning is struggling the way he is. And my whole thing, Pete and I did a thing in the offseason with the quarterbacks, and I thought that Arch would have the best season. And the reasoning wasn't what everybody thought. My reasoning was solely based in Steve Sarkisian and putting quarterbacks in great position to succeed. Not solely, but largely based on that. And the parallel that I made was to his 2020 season with Mac Jones. When Mac Jones was a starting quarterback at Alabama, even though he'd played a couple of games after Tua got hurt late, I think the prevailing sentiment was, he'll probably do something at some point in the season. They'll have to play Bryce Young as a true freshman. And Sark, I mean, he was setting records and throwing for 1 billion yards every week. And in my mind, I was like, well, now Mac Jones is a talented guy. I mean, I think he proved that with the 49ers yesterday. But Arch Manning probably has more physical gifts. So I thought, okay, he's been in the system a couple of years. There's some parallels there. They've got guys. This is going to work. And I still think it is. I still think it is going to work. But so far, it hasn't. But to the point you're making, Dan, Pavia is working. Even when he throws an interception in the end zone, it's like, who cares? He'll get it back and go score. Marcel Reed is working. Joey Aguilar, who was easy to have questions about, led the nation in interceptions last year and didn't get there until after the spring because he thought he was going to be playing quarterback at UCLA. He's working. Gunnar Stockton, starting Saturday, was certainly working. So, you find these guys that, if you can get Tommy Castellanos is working, find these guys that the guys around them will play for. Yeah. And everything can be transformed for you. John Mateer at Oklahoma. He's the reason that they are, that they're going to be a force in the SEC, which by the way, that Oklahoma Auburn game coming up with Jackson Arnold against John Mateer, you're going to get more and more and more of these. I mean, Look, I think Drew Aller is a terrific quarterback, terrific pro prospect, and you watch Bo Pribula play at times, and you're like, they were keeping this guy on the bench, spot duty. I mean, it's you find the right guy and the right fit, and a little running, a little moxie, a little toughness, and you got yourself a shot. Taylor Green, boy, Pete, Taylor Green, something else, and seemingly whoever Lane puts out there at quarterback. Champ was the Ferris State transfer, national champion at Ferris State. He looked terrific.
Dan, did you see him up there at Ferris? Isn't that near you?
I didn't get to a Ferris game, but they've won like 3 national titles recently. They have an excellent program. I'd had Aiden Childs at Michigan State. Look, everyone decries the transfer portal. Everybody hates the transfer portal, right? Transfer portal, terrible. Look, these kids are getting their chance to play somewhere. And we're getting to see quarterback play all over that isn't you're sitting on the bench as the third stringer because this guy is the 5-star recruiter. This guy's got the famous name, or this guy's the one the coach believes in. I'll go find a spot and I will make a difference. And if you start, whether it's, at a smaller school like Ferris State or New Mexico Institute, like Diego, and then you work your way up, here you are. I don't care what I was when I was a junior in high school or I didn't get invited to the Elite 11 or I was a multi-sport athlete. You get a chance to prove it. And so we're seeing great quarterbacks all over the country. It's no longer about how good you were when you're 16 and 17 and could you get around talent. So I love this is the benefit of the transfer portal. I'll be the only one to sing its praises. But if it was your son and he got overlooked when he was in high school and he kept working and didn't drink the rat poison maybe or whatever these guys are doing, and I'm not saying they're not working hard, but there's a lot of guys that weren't 5-star recruits that are better than the guys that are right now, and it's showing up on the field. I'll say this about Arch because he was the storyline coming in. I said this all summer. It's a weird year that we made the storyline about one player when that player isn't a returning Johnny Manziel, a returning Tim Tebow, returning Trevor Lawrence, right? We hadn't seen enough. This is after the Ohio State game. Okay, it's teetering. Let's see how good he is. I love my UTEP Miners, but you can't have 9 incompletions in a row against UTEP. You got outplayed by Malachi Nelson in the first.
It was those UTEP blitz packages, Dan. They dialed it up, man.
Hey, UTEP is on the rise. We're on the rise. Okay, take a look out there to West Texas. But it was a great performance by UTEP. A lot of people should pay attention to the state of Texas. But man, the pressure going into Red River is going to be enormous.
Enormous.
On Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian, who, needs Steve Sarkisian got a lot of mileage at Texas at that win at Alabama a couple years ago. You got Arch Manning, you spent all this money. Who you beating? Who you beating? And so there's a lot of pressure going in on Texas now. They got, I think, Sam Houston this weekend. This was the time they were supposed to sort things out. Arch didn't look sorted out on Saturday. We'll see. But when you got commercials running and the public scrutiny swings so hard in this country. It isn't fair, but it's not stoppable. And it's going to be a really interesting month.
You know who I left out? And it's because we're going to talk about him right now for a college quarterback that is working, a college quarterback that is a dude, a college quarterback so confident that he'll go through his warm-ups with some AirPods in, talking to some dudes on TV before he gets set to go out and beat Clemson, Haynes King. And now Georgia Tech has been the master of the upset under Brent Key. And now Georgia Tech now is going to be a player, I think, in the ACC. They just have to avoid stepping on the rake, win the games you're supposed to win, and now they've proven they're going to stay in the fight against the uber-talented teams who Clemson's underperforming. Look, I'm going to get mocked. I picked them preseason number 1. I picked them to win the national championship. I've already, I think Bill Connolly's made some semi-snide swipes. I didn't see what everyone else did. I saw 3 first-round draft picks on defensive line. I saw a veteran quarterback. I saw explosive receivers. None of them are dominating the game, not the way they should. They still have offensive line problems. They have for a long time. They haven't been able to, to get around it. And, Bill, so far up to this point, Bill and those who doubted Clemson were right, and I was wrong. And the pieces look good, and for whatever reason, they haven't fit together. They haven't played to their capabilities. Now LSU's a terrific team. Georgia Tech's a really good team. No shame in losing those games to those teams. Troy's a solid outfit. Clemson hasn't played to his capability one time, not one time this year. And, now they're up against it with 2 losses and already a conference loss too.
Yeah. Let me start by giving Georgia Tech their flowers. I think
absolutely
what Brent Key has done there has been fantastic. We were around them a bunch in Dublin last year, Rece, and I remember after they upset Florida State, which at the time was a seismic upset. I think people forget a little bit about what it was in that moment. And he told me in the stadium, in the tunnel after the game, basically, like, we build our program around big people. He said they have 18 staff members who are former linemen. So you walk in the building as a recruit, an O-line recruit, a D-line recruit, you're going to see other people. It's not some, not some yoga instructor who's going to be teaching the guards, right? Like they are a program that is going to be built in the trenches. Brent Key obviously is former offensive lineman there, and they had a very linear philosophy. We are going to spend, like they did on Josh Petty, on 5-star offensive linemen. We are going to build in the trenches, and we are going to out-slug you and out-tough you. And that vision laid out clearly has manifested itself in a very clear way. Now, Haynes King, unbelievable, goes without saying, needs to stay healthy, right? They wisely sat him for Gardner Webb because he had a lingering lower body issue. They do really like the next guy they have up, Aaron Philo. But what Georgia Tech has done, just as much as they have proven the maestro of these wonderful upsets, number 4 Miami last year, number 10 Florida State last year, they've also shown a propensity to lay eggs. Now, 21-6 last year at Virginia Tech. They lost to Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, 31-28. The Tech game, they were without King, which makes a difference. But can they ride consistently through a very manageable schedule, right? I don't think they will be an underdog in any game until Georgia by the end of the year. NC State, road games at NC State, at BC, at Wake Forest, and at Duke. So they will be challenged, but they have shown that they can be a high-end ACC team. And remember when they hired Brent Key, he was on staff. He went there. They tried to hire Willie Fritz, and Willie Fritz wouldn't agree to the job or talk to them or whatever the nuance was until he coached Tulane in the AAC title game. And they didn't wait, and they pivoted to Key. And that pivot and that decision in that moment has proven to completely revive Georgia Tech football. They're relevant in Atlanta again. They're winning on the biggest stages. They're vibrant and they're buzzing and they have a clear identity. So just a lot of credit to the whole operation there, from Jay Batt to Ryan Alpert. Now they've raised a ton of money. They want to be on the right side of the river in this thing too, and they've been very intentional about that.
One of their great traditions in college football, they did it Saturday. Georgia Tech, you tear down the goalpost and you carry it to the president's mansion and throw it in his swimming pool. That's where they. There's a debate normally. Where's it go? We talked about elite defense, Mississippi State's elite goalpost defense last year. Georgia Tech, let's go. We're going right to the president's house, and he's got this sweet little pool in the back. If you see the videos, not bad. A little brick paver, all stone pavers and everything. Really nice. The president is not there, like sun tanning himself or anything like that. But all of a sudden, his backyard has like 500 frat guys, and they toss it in the pool. So they showed. I think Pete's right. They've shown they can play with anybody. They've shown they can lose to anybody. This is at NC State. November 1's a big game, but very manageable. That this team could be going into hosting Georgia at the end of the year. Very, very high. And this is an excellent, he is building an excellent program there. This is the competitive nature of college football has never been better because of the transfer portal. These guys are going all over the place, and all your brand, not all your brand names. Ohio State's still looking pretty good, but a lot of brand names aren't looking so good. And a lot of teams are coming up out anywhere. That's why this SEC, just to take the SEC, which Georgia Tech's not in obviously, but roll your dice on who you think's going to win this thing. And when was the last time you could say, we're not going to do it today, we're doing another show, but we could spend 20 minutes debating 7 different teams could win this league, maybe? I don't know. Mm-hmm. When was the last time that was the case? It used to be like, well, looks like Florida and Alabama are going to meet in the SEC championship game, and that'll be it. Or Georgia and Alabama game. Like, that was pretty much it. Now, I don't know. Nobody knows. The sport is so great right now.
Vandy, sorry, just to accentuate that point. Vandy is good. Like, this isn't like, oh, cute little Vandy, they might win. They're good.
They're good.
They went and kicked.
Pounded them.
Yes, pounded them up and down the field. Like, that's awesome to see. They did what Virginia Tech or UCLA might do. They went and got they got the coordinator and the quarterback, right? And one of the options for these schools now, you look at a place like North Texas, Drew Mestemaker is the best sort of up-and-coming G5 quarterback in the country, like new starter. And he's the former walk-on who was a safety in high school. He absolutely lit up Coach Saban's Superdog pick, Washington State, on Saturday. So if you say, okay, maybe I want Eric Morris to be my coach. Oh, well, he's going to bring Drew Mestemaker with like that. The packaging is what helped in NIL in the new era, allowed them to go get Tim Beck, Diego Pavia, Eli Stowers, and that gave them the basis and identity to push forward. If you have money, there's always like a minor league system basically waiting for you to it's like those when they move the houses in the small towns and they put them on the back of a truck. That's basically what you can do now in college football. You can uproot in Las Cruces, drive it to Nashville, and then plant the house there and go.
You can either listen to the congressional testimony where they tell everybody that the sport is dead and it's horrible and it's the worst thing ever, or you can watch every Saturday and go, this is absolutely incredible.
Better than that is your favorite account, the message board geniuses who in the offseason, I'm never watching again because I don't like the fact that we're paying this money. And record ratings on television, can't get close to the stadium with the traffic. It's great. It's got problems. We all know it's got problems. Sure. But it's awesome. It's awesome every week.
The fixture, not the bug. They're it, right?
Best season, worst off season. That's what we live in. We have the worst off seasons, but we have the best seasons.
One of the games potentially for Georgia Tech that Pete mentioned that might seem tricky and might well prove to be tricky by November, but seems less tricky after Saturday night after reading the account. Dan, would you like to do the honors, or would you like me to do the honors of what happened when Boston College visited the farm of Stanford and the accounts from the game that some might have missed?
Oh, no, you Captain go ahead. You got it right there. Oh, no,
you got it.
I think you would do a great Andrew Luck voice.
Do you have a good revolutionary Revolutionary War voice in the back of your arsenal, Rece? I don't know what 1776.
I'm encouraging Rece to do the Andrew Luck Twitter account every week.
This would be a good bit.
All right,
Yeah.
now see, I've
Go
never, I fancy myself good at imitating people. I'm sure I'm not, but it's really funny to me when I do it. I do a lot.
You do a good
lot of
Lou
coaches
Holtz.
here and there.
You do a good, yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't. No, I don't imitate Lou Holtz ever.
To set this up, this is a
not
parody
not
account.
publicly anyway. Huh?
Parody account of Captain Andrew Luck, who is
Yes.
now running the Stanford football program, and he writes home to his mother from what, Civil War?
Yeah, Civil War, I guess. I might have
It's
said
like a
Revolution.
Civil War era thing.
Yes. And
Because of that beard, because he had
Yes.
that beard, and so the Captain Andrew Luck. It is a parody account. It describes him as soldier, cardinal tactician, Colt, former simple man, and
the
writes
account
home
went dormant basically when Andrew was retired. There was like a couple year period, and then he got the general manager job last year on Thanksgiving weekend, and it's been revived, much to the delight of us three nerds.
Yeah. So go ahead, Rece. I am so excited that you've taken this suggestion and we're going with it. Let's go.
I'm workshopping the voice, and if you guys prove to be better with the voice, then one of you will take over this bit.
No,
But here-
all you.
Here we go. No, we're gonna try it. This is like my daughter's an actress. Sometimes she has to do an audition. Here's the audition. Okay, here we go. From Captain Andrew Luck. Dearest mother, our unit bested the Eagles. It was a hard-fought battle, but we were prepared. Please thank our rooster for the tactical advice. So wise. I miss the feeling of victory. I am truly anew. The men are bursting with pride. All feels right. I love you, Andrew.
Pretty good.
There you go. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Work in progress.
Maybe you can have,
What was the molasses chipmunk elbow?
No, that was
the
because
one
they
that's-
prepared.
What was
I'll
that
do
one,
it.
Pete?
Dearest
Do it.
mother. I'll try it.
Let's hear it.
That's not going to be good. We continue to prepare for the incoming Eagle unit. I have ordered the men to drill while covered in feathers to better understand our adversaries. Thank you for the care package. The molasses-coated chipmunk elbows were a particular treat. Andrew. Wait, who is this guy? And
For
what is
some
he?
reason, molasses coated chipmunk
he's
elbows.
brilliant is
sent me,
what he is.
Yes.
I've heard Andrew loves it. Andrew, the actual
He
Andrew
does.
Luck loves it.
They were firing everybody on message board geniuses early
Oh,
yeah.
No,
on Saturday.
it's week 3. That's about time when people get fired.
What? Yeah, we get who's next, Pete? Who's next? Who's next
Well, I
on
think
the
that
big
the
show?
next person in the crosshairs is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State, and they play Tulsa on Friday night. They should beat Tulsa. They are not very good, and I think we've been pretty blunt about that on this podcast. And I think it was Stanford Steve and I at one point on College Football Live. We were kind of talking about like naming that score. 10 new coaches, whole new roster. It's just sort of sputtering to an end at Oklahoma State, and it's super awkward because there is likely to be an athletic director change, and I say that because the athletic director is basically working on like a month-to-month contract. That's Chad Weiberg, who's been there a handful of seasons. He has had some health issues, so I don't want to be too terse about his job status, but he's basically operating a month-to-month deal. And this is a place that has been so defined by Mike Gundy. It's going to be really difficult to insert an entire new identity. They were late to NIL. They got behind. Now, look, they played the Big 12 title game 2 seasons ago. So it's not like but from that point, it's been a spiral, and it looks as if it's irrecoverable at this point. So exiting Legends is hard. It's really hard to do that in September, October. But in terms of a job that is inevitably to open, Oklahoma State looms here. And I would think they'll be a little patient. I think there try to be some hand-holding. But this is Mike Gundy. So anyone who's going to predicting how Mike Gundy's going to handle all this has no idea, right? He's the most relentlessly unpredictable character our sport has seen in the last 2 decades. So
The man hunts rattlesnakes, Pete.
he does.
He's been known to go out and hunt rattlesnakes. He's not going to be afraid to step through all of this at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
So
He wore a mullet.
He still does.
I mean,
yeah.
well,
yeah, the mullet's
modified
flowing.
mullet now.
The
right?
Missouri Compromise he's got going on up there. It's just, works that thing.
Yeah.
I hope I hope they handle it with grace, and I hope Mike allows them to, if in fact a change is made, as it seems, because I think his son put this out on social media, and he's right. He is Oklahoma State football. Now, look, they've had better players. I mean, they have Barry Sanders and Terry Miller and Hartley Dykes and a number of other great players. But in terms of contributions as a player, near untold or unmatched, I should say, success in his tenure as a head coach, a fraction and some bad luck away from playing for a national championship. He's defined Oklahoma State football, and I hope it. You're 100% right, Pete. Mike's his own guy. He's going to do it his way. He can be unpredictable, but I hope it's handled with grace on both sides because of what he's accomplished and what he means and has meant to Oklahoma State football. I'd hate to see that end on a sour note, but most of us in broadcasting, and I think the same would hold true in sports, usually kind of end up getting dragged out unceremoniously. The exceptions to that are obvious recently. Certainly, Lee Corso. Not many of us get the Lee Corso exit, right? And certainly coaches rarely get that. They either surprise everybody, as a number of guys had, as Nick did to some degree.
Sure.
And, other guys, Bill Cowher, people like that who just decide, okay, I'm set. Bob Stoops, just surprising everybody. But you either surprise them or it ends in less than glorious fashion typically. But I hope it's handled with grace and dignity because of what Mike has done and has accomplished at Oklahoma State.
Yeah. I mean, even Mac Brown had an ugly exit. And he's like the friendliest, most amicable, and like they didn't even hold hands and walk at the end. These exits are
Some would say they tried.
Yes, they would. They would, but it
Some
didn't
would
work.
say they tried.
He got fired on the phone after declaring he was going to come back without checking with his bosses. So just these exits are really hard. And that one, because of everything Rece said, which I agree with completely, is going to make it even harder. He has 100 more wins than the next best coach at Oklahoma State. It's like 110 or something like that. So it's just that's 10 seasons of 10 wins more than anybody else, like ahead of them. So I mean, he's a statue guy, stadium name guy. He's done it all there. The empirical results have just changed drastically, and the evolution to the times it just hasn't happened.
They were favored to win the conference, or one of the favorites to win the conference last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year.
Favorites. Preseason favorites.
Were they winless in the league? Yeah, they were winless in the league, right?
Yeah, they were winless in the league last year after being
Utah had like 1 or 2 wins, and they were like tied for second to last in the Big 12 last year.
Here's the one I want Pete to follow, this story. I don't know if you saw this at the Vanderbilt, South Carolina game when our colleague at SEC Network, Cole Kublik, asked Theo Vaughn about this, the comedian Theo Vaughn, podcaster, on the sideline, and about whether there was a bet going down that Diego Pavia had said if he wins the game, Theo Vaughn has to go out on a date with Diego's mom. Now, I'm unsure how it would seem like the other way around. Like you would be like, if my team wins, I get to go on a date with your mom. I don't know whether this is true, but Cole went right to the source and he asked Theo Vaughn this question. And Theo Vaughn said, yes, that's true. She's a nurse. And my goal that I'd like to marry a nurse one day. So that's why Diego was thinking about that. I'd like to be his friend, not end up being like his stepdad, So we will see what happens. Now,
this is a
direct quote. It was on national television.
I saw it. I
don't believe the story, but what do I like? What you say? I'm going to beat South Carolina, and when I do, you're going out on a date with my mom.
Is having Theo Vaughn as Diego Pavia's stepdad? How does that compare with the potential for Diego to be everybody in the SEC's daddy by the end of the season?
Is anyone doing college football better than Diego Pavia?
Like he's also old enough to be a stepdad too. So
yeah, he'll sue and get a couple more years. Don't worry, he's going to be around. Yeah,
like the Phillips 66ers in like the 50s, like the 28-year-old. Like that's what we're going back to. So Pavia forever. Get some judge in that whatever county Nashville's in to just let it. Like it's just too entertaining. He's made Vanderbilt electric. Like, you have to watch them. They're relevant. They're great. Like, we're talking about celebrities on Vanderbilt's sideline and what they said during games. Like, that's bananas compared to the last century of Vanderbilt football.
They play hard. They're not. They're not gimmicky. They're tough. They're hard nosed. And here he comes out here. He's like just this magician. It's like he's slathered in baby oil and covered in rattlesnakes when people try to get a hand on him and they can't. And you watch that Netflix series, the Vanderbilt episode, and his teammates are giving him a hard time. You don't do anything in practice. He just laughs at them and continues to needle everybody in sight, and then goes out on Saturday and just balls, And he's fun, man. They're real. They're real.
Oh, yeah. Don't his brothers?
I don't know if they're
have
deep
podcast?
enough to win the whole SEC, but they're going to be a problem for whoever they play.
I want sources.
Dan, do his brothers have a podcast? Like, they basically just go out drinking in Nashville and do a podcast about it. Like, we're Diego Pavia's brothers. We're going to go have a few cocktails at, some bar with the next, aspiring T-Swifts, and we're going to talk about it.
Pete, can that be Dan has a great idea. Dan's always a great judge of content. Can that be in the A's for your update in the A's on Saturday on College Game Day? If you drop that completely deadpan, and
I'm good at deadpan, Rece.
Yeah, you could give the whole deadpan thing, and Rece, one more thing. Vanderbilt plays Georgia State today, a team that beat them a year ago. An update on the condition of the potential romance between Theo Von and Diego Pavia's mother. This would be great.
That's what I want. Sources say they had dinner at
Hall's Chop House.
Fine place, Hall's Chop House in Nashville last night. She had the ribeye medium rare and a Caesar side. I mean, what do we got? I want that. So sorry to sign you work, Pete, but this is the story America really wants to know. We're trying to maybe some of Theo's podcast audience will come to us. Some of Theo's pod audience will. Let's get a little of that.
I don't remember who said it. Someone said about this whole podcast thing, they're in the competition area, the way things are different now with schedules, that the pie just kind of keeps growing, that, you don't worry about like taking audience away from somebody else. Like if somebody's listening to Theo Von content and then they find out we talk about Theo Von, that's more for everybody. Just like if somebody's listening for college football and there's another college football podcast, that's good for everybody. So, hey, we're not trying to. Hey, Theo Von.
No, there's no other pod. There's no other
great guest picker. He's a hilarious dude. He's awesome. We're not trying to take anything from Theo. We just want to know, man.
Have we had Theo as a guest picker?
Yeah, we had Theo as a guest picker. Sure did.
When?
He was great. He was tremendous. I think the SEC championship game.
Yeah, he was there when
he was awesome.
Was there when McAfee sang the whole Georgia song and then says, I'm taking Alabama. And Theo was like, what just happened? Yeah. That's what he said. Yeah. He
was, as you would expect. He was tremendous and a good dude too. Really, really nice fella.
Well, I'm so dead on pop culture that at App State one year, I went to the bathroom after a hit and I peed next to Luke Combs and I thought it was a security guard. So I got no idea.
All right.
Stick to my portal quarterbacks and random holders and
that's the way we roll here, guys. That was fun. I think great things ahead for the rest of the season if last Saturday was any indication. And Pete, we'll be counting on you for the latest update and the budding romance, because I don't know what the situation is with either Diego Pavia's mom or Theo
Jesse
Von.
Palmer could get in on this too. He knows a lot about this type of
that's a good idea.
He's got that. Yeah.
Consult with Jesse.
We got a lot of talent here at ESPN that can handle this story. So yeah, maybe dual bylines.
I'll go TMZ for you, Rece. I'm not afraid. I'll go TMZ for you. No problem.
Let's keep this between us. Okay. Our producer Jim Galliero listens to the podcast. He's going to figure it out. But if you do this and drop some updated knowledge on that would be good. Tremendous.
All right, let's see where we end up.
Let's see where we are. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or better yet, subscribe and never miss an episode.